Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us September 9th for our DDC meeting. And as a reminder, just put your full name and district in the chat and mute your microphone and turn your camera off to save on bandwidth. Okay, so our agenda today, the meeting is an hour long. We will have a chat monitor as usual. So any questions as they pop up, please feel free to put them in the chat and we'll get to them during the meeting. If you have a question you want to ask verbally, we have a question section at the end as well. So today we're going to go over, we have our welcome, logistics, due dates and timelines. We have some updates, reminders, and what's new, staff evaluation. We have the looking ahead, and as I said, the questions section. So let's get started. All right, so starting out with due dates and timelines. So some items, some dates that you will definitely want to keep on your radar is September 10th, tomorrow, special ed events for the VR 11, 12, and 14. So tomorrow is that last day to migrate by noon. And for the special ed events, the certification is going to be due in the PD system for the VR 11, 12, and 14 on September 15th. And then October 1st is Beds Day. So that's for the 25-26 school year, right? So the first Wednesday in October is always Beds Day. And also on October 1st, the Beds IMF, which is a non-CSRS data collection. So that's something you may be responsible for within your district. And also on October 1st, we have that bed snapshot, which opens, which is the VR 1 to 9. And our special ed, our special services department will speak a little bit about that later. So on October 15th, we already have August graduates, which are going to be due. So make sure that you're updating your graduates enrollment exits, the credential and the career path. And don't forget those out-of-district students. You could have some graduates in your out-of-district locations. All right, so moving on to October 22nd, we have staff evaluation data that's going to be due. We'll speak a little bit about that later. So once you migrate that data, there is a new level 2 report, the CSRS 365, which you can check for that data on. And then October 31st already, we have the staff evaluation certification, which is going to be due through SEDMON. Okay, so I've also linked the 25-26 CSRS timeline here for reference if you don't have it, and we'll share out all this information after the meeting, so you'll be able to access all of these links as well. Okay, so transitioning over to our reporting roadmap, also known as the Gantt chart. For our new DDCs, this does help you answer that question of like, what should I be working on and when? So this is one of those various resources that we help, that we share to help you stay on track. So we recommend, bookmarking it, especially any resources that resonate with you, because you're going to be building that resource library as you go through the year. So the roadmap here, it does show domains that are due every month or that you might want to be working on during that month. And just keep in mind, right, that the due dates are subject to change by NYSED. So that does happen from time to time. And when it does, the CSRS timeline that I just shared on that previous slide would be updated, and as would our Gantt chart, our reporting roadmap here. Okay. Right, so I'm not seeing any questions in the chat yet, so I'm going to move on. This is probably one of my bigger updates here, is the import schedule. So the import schedule for the 25-26 school year, we just like last year, we're sharing it through a published link. And you're going to notice this year, it's a little different. So we have transitioned to a weekly import schedule instead of bi-weekly. So you might be wondering, like, why did we do that, right? Like, this is to help meet NYSED's expectations of having that accurate data throughout the entire year and not just before those deadlines. So this will also allow for those level 1 and level 2 reports to be more updated and therefore be more useful, right, to your districts or BOCES through the year. So One thing I did want to note is while we do highly recommend weekly imports and migration, it really is going to be your LEA's decision to do so. So that's something you want to think about internally and how you're going to do that throughout the year. So if you're a school tool, Mid-Hudson RIC supported districts, those first two imports will be done manually by your student service representative. And the daily auto imports that you're used to seeing on School Tool will begin September 29th, which is going to be import number 3 now. And you know what? Let me see if I can copy this link just so you can see what I'm speaking to. I'll put it in the chat there. So all that I'm saying to you is noted in the import schedule. On the top and the bottom, there's like a notes section, if you will, and messages at the top of the bottom of the import schedule, which is noting all these items that I'm speaking to. So if you're at Infinite Campus or eSchool, MHRIC supported district, you'll want to just see your student services support for those import timeframes so that you know how the data will be imported. So as usual, once that import begins, that migration deadline is going to still be Wednesdays at noon. So that's the same as prior years. And just keep in mind, any migrations done after Wednesday at noon, they can't be guaranteed to migrate that week. So they could, but we can't guarantee it. So if you want to make sure that data is going to migrate, just be sure to do it by Wednesday at noon. Okay. So I'm not seeing any questions in the chat, so I'm going to move on. And we're going to have some updates from our special services and our testing services department. So we're going to start with Sarah Leiner from Special Services.
Hello, everybody. Happy new school year. Thank you so much to the DDC team for having me. We're going to talk about a couple, one reminder and one new topic. One last thing we have to talk about to finish up the 24-25 school year reporting, and that's our SE events. The SE events, which includes indicator 11, 12, as well as VR 14. The certification date for this is Monday, September 15th. So if your district has not certified yet, this is your reminder to do so. And additionally, for you guys, I would encourage you to reach out to your special ed office staff to see where they're at. Do they still need a migration to happen this week? Because the deadline for that migration is tomorrow, September 10th. If your districts have already certified, you don't need to migrate because the information's already been completed. But if it still remains open and they've got errors lingering or corrections that they are making, that that migration is absolutely needed. After this week, the SE events will stop importing because the reporting will be closed and we'll be opening up the 25-26 school year. All right, so now we're going to move into our reporting for the 25-26 school year. And the first thing that we have up is our bed stay snapshot, or the October snapshot. As Sam mentioned, bed stay this year is October 1st, 2025. And after that is when you will start seeing the bed stay data imported into level 0. Certifications for these reports, they're verification reports 1 through 9. However, you only have to certify 1 through 6 and 8. That certification date is January 20th, 2026. That is a Tuesday because that Monday is a holiday. So the last day to migrate this information is January 14th. Keep that information in mind. So as we go over the next few months, your special ed office staff will be working at correcting any of those errors and things. So we encourage, if you are seeing any errors in level 0 related to the bed stay snapshot, if you see them lingering and persisting, just reach out to your special ed office staff to let them know. Sometimes the errors that they're looking at in frontline are not the same that you guys are seeing in level 0. So keep that communication open. But that's the first and only thing I have for you yet. And I will see you guys next month. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. All right, and their newsletter is linked here in case you're curious. And I'm going to move over to the testing department, and I believe Lori is presenting today.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First, a little discussion about the August Regents and the Nicetel exports. Right now, they're only available in ASAP because we're waiting for the 25-26 demographics and enrollment to catch up, which will happen at some point after level 0 opens. We will begin the exports once that is available to us. Just a note that if you need any more answer sheets, please let us know at testcontacts@mhric.org. And a reminder, because we have gotten a couple of questions about this, the Nicetel test booklets are ordered by the principals at your schools through the NICED business portal. We don't do that here. We just provide the answer sheets. So that we have gotten a couple questions about that. We wanted to let you know that as a reminder. And next, the end of year reports. We're working on downloading the response files, or we have downloaded and posted the response files, and we're working on the ISRs right now. If you requested them and if you requested student labels, you'll be seeing them in the coming weeks. And lastly, there is big news for the level 1 reports. We have been told that there is going to be district managed user creation for level 1, and we'll be reaching out to you to find out who that user or users should be, who will be given that capability. Also, teacher level accounts will now become available along with some reports designed specifically for those teacher level accounts. As these features become available, we'll be reaching out to provide more information and guidance.
Okay. Lori, a question for you in the chat. Any idea when we can add teacher accounts to level 1?
We do not have a definitive time yet.
Yep. Then John answered for you too. So,
yep.
Okay.
That's the question on everybody's mind.
Yes.
When?
Well, thank you, Lori. Okay, so we're going to move over to the data collection and reporting reminders and what's new sections. So remember, we are your friendly neighborhood data warehouse help desk team, right? For any new DDCs out there, that's Michelle, Pam, Helen, and myself. So we're your data team.
Yeah, I just.
All right, so we're going to move over to some reminders. All right, so when you need to define a location for level 0, we have LA, which is our location ad app, and it is accessible by this link on the page. I know it says 24-25 school year when you go into it, but it is being used for the 25-26 school year, and that will be updated soon. So when you're creating a location, just a few reminders, right? So there's a level 1 location report by district to confirm that your local location code that you've picked hasn't already been used. So that's important. And then SEDREF is used to look up the location beds code. So if you're new to SEDREF, there's a % sign you can use when searching, and sometimes you'll get more results if you're looking for a unique location. So once you've received a reply from the data warehouse help desk after a nightly refresh, the location will show in level 0. Okay, and I see there's a question in the chat about teachers being able to use level 1 this year instead of bars. So that's for testing, and I'm sure the testing department will reply back in the chat. So we'll come back to that if we need to. Okay, thank you, John. All right, and John has been told yes, it will roll out for this year. Okay, so no questions for the for law, so I'm going to move on. So on this slide here, I've shared the links for the timeline again, and additionally the memo for 25-26. So with the start of every year, there's a SIRS reporting memo. If you haven't already, I definitely urge you to review the memo. Just some highlights from it. It's quite a long document, but some highlights are, so remember that the SIRS reporting requirements, it applies to all public school districts, BOCES, and charter schools. That SIRS timeline, it tells you when that data is reported to level 2. But at the Mid-Hudson RIC, we have that weekly migration deadline of Wednesday at noon. So we have to back that up a little bit to allow for time to for that data to migrate to level 2. So dates on that SIRS reporting timeline can be added or modified through the year. So as we know, that does happen each year. And the, oops, sorry, just mute that. So all reporting entities are expected to manage internal data protocols and data quality best practices. So you want to have some kind of internal process for updating data, correcting it, cleansing it, and continually reviewing it through the year. So in addition to reports on level 2 and level 0 and level 1, there are reports sometimes distributed to districts through the IRSP from NICED. So if that happens, the DDC or the information officer, whoever's listed on SEDREF, will get an email letting them know that a file is available on the IRSP. Okay. So no other questions about that. So we're going to move right along to the summer school programs. So our 25-26 summer school records, are they due to NICED now? No, they are not. They're due at the end of the school year, which is going to be August 2026. But why am I mentioning it now in our September DDC meeting? Because as a wise DDC once said, collect it and report it now because you might not remember it later. So summer school participation is required to be reported as a program service for any student that participates in 20 hours or more. So if you're a district where your students attend a summer school elsewhere and not at your district, you're not exactly off the hook because you do have that accountability reporting responsibility. If you have that 0011 for the student, then you should be reporting summer school programs. So review students that attended summer school this past July, August, because they do get reported in that 25-26 school year, and look in SIRS for those summer school details because there are a lot of details to those programs if you're new to that. Okay, so 8,300 enrollments in L programs. So have you ever wondered how to report a compulsory age L student who becomes an 8,300 enrollment, which is the compulsory age student not attending? So luckily in SIRS, this has been clarified this year for this exact situation because it came up a lot last year. And we did include it in the task list this month. I figured it might be a hot topic. And that's under the SIRS manual tip of the month, which is linked on this slide here. So the task list goes into like step-by-step updates that are needed for the students to ensure they're reported accurately. I'm not going to go into all that here, but basically in a nutshell, the student's L program, not the 0231 L eligibility, because we know they can only test out of that. The L program itself should be ended and have the 8239, the L eligible but not in an L program. And that starts on the day that they started their 8,300 enrollment because they're no longer in an L program if they're no longer attending. So I urge you check out the task list for more information on that. And it also is in the SIRS manual for further reference. So I don't see any questions in the chat. So I'm going to move over to our What's New section and pass it over to Pam.
Good morning, everybody. Happy September. I just want to remind anyone who's joined a little bit late to remember to sign in the chat with your name and district or BOCES or so that we can have a good record of who was in attendance. Okay, so let's move on to what's new. And first we have a little shout out here going on. So if you click for me, Sam. So let's get together. So I'd like to recognize the folks at the Livingston Manor Central School District and the Roscoe Central School District who whose districts no longer exist because they've gotten together and, give me a click, Sam, have merged to form the Rockland Central School District. So this may be news to some of you, but it's been an interesting process. It's been ongoing throughout all of last year and perhaps even further back than that in the districts and well into the summer. It's not quite complete yet from a state reporting perspective because we cannot finalize things until level 0 actually opens. But we'd like to acknowledge the significant work that was involved in getting to this point, both by folks in the districts, and by the various teams here at the RIC. From student services to our testing team and the data team as well, we were forging new paths. A little history lesson here. The last merger in our region was in 1999 when 3 districts were merged into the Sullivan West Central School District. So as you might expect, when we looked for somebody who remembered having gone through that process, the experts were no longer available to us. So here at the RIC. Of course, to be fair, it was a little different at this time, as we went through it this time, because at that time, student data was chiseled onto slate tablets and delivered to SED in a cart pulled by a team of oxen, and data privacy and protection was provided by the Pinkertons. So how times have changed. So how does this impact the rest of the region? In most cases, it won't. But if you happen to have placed a student in either one of the Livingston Manor or Roscoe schools, you may have an old location code in your SMS that should be made inactive. These locations will no longer appear in level 0 since the beds codes are no longer active in said route.
It's like a regionalization thing?
No, actually, this came about prior to the regionalization work that went on.
Okay.
We don't know definitively if there will be any additional mergers due to that work, but this was initiated prior to the regionalization work that was done last year. It was already in process. Okay. So anyway, kudos to the teams out in the Rockland Central School District and to our teams here at the RIC. It was an interesting learning curve, and we don't know if regionalization may cause us to go through this again, but I'm glad we got to learn it, with one, and we'll be prepared for anything further that happens. Okay, on to our next slide. So, as is typical in September, we're going to spend a few minutes talking about updates to level 0 that are needed to support changes to state reporting for 2025-26. It's really not too bad of a year for changes. Okay, it's early days, so although we are giving you a heads up, some changes may not have all the details worked out yet. We will be passing on additional details as we receive them throughout the year. Keep in mind for each of these items that updates will likely be required by the vendors, i.e. your student management systems, your HR systems, or your special ed systems, to support the new data collections. Vendors have all been notified by SED, and they will determine how these items will be implemented within each system. You may have already seen some of them, but I'm sure there are some additional changes down the road. The link here provided in the upper right-hand corner, it takes you to what is commonly referred to as the vendor landing page. This page will be updated for the 25-26 school years as the documents become available. Check back there for additional changes throughout the year. So What's new? Let's take a look into each of these items on this summary list in the next few pages. Okay. So Sam, want to give it a click. Okay. We had talked about phone number requirements last spring also. We just wanted to reiterate the SCD guidance. If there is no phone number at the principal residence, record the number most frequently used to contact the student's primary guardian. The number should not contain all zeros if a valid number is available. The all zeros phone number was created for situations when a phone number cannot be published for security reasons. The correct format of all zeros is not actually all zeros. You need to report the area code followed by 7 zeros. This should only be required in rare circumstances. But also in the same area and new for 2025-26, SCD is requesting parent email addresses be reported. It is not required, but for most districts, I'm sure you already collect these for communication with the parents. So hopefully, all that will be required is a vendor update to pull that information into the export, and ta-da, you're done. I can hope, but it may be a little more, intricate than that, but hopefully it will be relatively straightforward. The only word of caution I have here, as I thought it through, is that similar to the zero phone numbers, for situations where information must be suppressed, the email address may also need to be restricted. So please keep that in mind as you're importing this new data point, and to acknowledge if there's any parents whose email address should not be reported. Okay. Our next update, we now have a new day type for your day calendar. Districts will now be able to indicate any day where they switch to remote instruction. The new day type code is the word remote, the text string remote. This will obviously count as an instructional day, and districts will be able to report and track the number of remote days during the year. Typically, this occurs when all snow days have been used up and that wonderful late April or early May snowstorm arrives. As you can see from the SIRS excerpt on the right, the new day type code, listed in the right-hand column, is included in the day type category of instructional day, listed in the left-hand column. Just for confusion, the instructional day type also has an instructional day type code of instructional day. Basically, to simplify this, just look at the list of codes in the right-hand column, most of which you're already familiar with, and we've just added one to the list. Okay. And another quick note on potential confusion. The description of this new day type code in the SIRS manual states, school districts may deliver instruction remotely on days in which it would otherwise have been closed due to an emergency. Well, don't let the word emergency throw you. There is also an emergency day, which is a non-instructional day. Emergency days are rare and need approval from SED. Remote instructional days are due to snow, quote, emergencies that are determined by the district. So if that's not clear, just continue to do what you're doing and know that you have the option to also set a remote day. Okay. Now, in addition to that, once a remote day has been set in your calendar, attendance will need to be adjusted. As you can see in the left-hand column on the slide, students in attendance on a remote day should be marked as present out since they are not in the building. And a modality of remote should be specified. In other words, the instruction was delivered remotely. For comparison purposes, I've just included what would be reported on a typical instruction day with a day type code of instructional day. In other words, when students are actually in the building on a regular school day. And of course, a note that if the student is not present, you would want to report the appropriate absent code for the day. So it gets confusing because they've used the same word for multiple data points. But I think once you use it and, just set things up, you'll be comfortable with how it actually all works out. So, all right, on to the next. All right, this change is much more straightforward. So based on request, teachers who have earned the National Board certification may now be reported as such. This information would be entered into your HR system and exported with the staff snapshot record. Talk to your HR team to have this information added to the teacher's record if it's not already there. And note, you may need to do some research to determine which teachers have earned this certification if they're not already recorded in your HR system. We have been told that WinCap added this functionality to their latest release and that Envision expects it to be in the September release. Please reach out to your financial services support teams if you need any additional information, such as where the fields will appear. Okay. One more significant change is the requirement to report PD8 information in SERS. There is a new template for this data collection called Infraction Response Template. 2025 will be a dual collection year, meaning that the data will be collected as in the past and also in this new SERS data collection. Just to note, since not to confuse this with the student restraint event, which was a new behavior-related event that was new last year. Okay, so some details on this as we know so far. New data collection for disciplinary removals should be reported for all students, not just classified students. The intent is to replace the PD8, and there will be a dual collection, as I said, for 25-26. It will be reported from the SMS by the school of attendance, and the reason for that is that school is the one that has the best knowledge of the incident. Each removal requires a student infraction record for all students. There will be some additional fields and removal types that can be specified for classified students to ensure that all the PD8 information is collected. Some of these fields may not yet be available in your SMS. What may matter now, a student can only have one suspension type at a time. If a student receives both an in-school and out-of-school suspension for the same incident, they must be reported separately with different start dates and event identifiers. So you may need to update your process to record this situation correctly from the beginning of the year. All right, so a little more detail on our specific SMSs that we support. I'm going to turn this over to Sarah Delaventura from Student Services to report out on that.
Thank you, Pam. Good morning. This is Sarah Delaventura. I'm with the Student Services team. We just wanted to share that eSchool Data, Infinite Campus, and School Tool are actively developing the new student infraction response functionality within each of their systems. At this point, it's anticipated late fall, early winter, so think end of November, December timeline, but this is tentative at this time. So as progress continues, we'll keep you updated with any changes and additional information, but that is all I have for now. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. All right, so next we have two relatively straightforward program codes that have been added for 25-26. One of which students residing on reservation land will likely not be needed in our region, but please be aware that if it does apply, that it is available. And similarly to my brother's keeper, we've now added a new program code to report my sister's keeper program. And so you may want to make sure that you have identified all students participating in those programs and reporting them accordingly. And next,
Pam,
yeah.
We have a question in the chat regarding the student infraction. So if CTE student is removed by BOCES, the school of attendance is BOCES, correct?
I believe that's true, but it's a good question and I will verify that.
Okay. And also there's a question in the chat earlier on from Mike, which we'll come back to as time allows. If not today, I will make sure to follow up with you via data warehouse email. It's about an L.
Okay. All right. All right. So moving on to the next update for 25-26 in the area of pre-kindergarten programs. We previously had two codes, a 902 for universal pre-K and a 990 for an other pre-K program. And now they've added four additional codes to allow you to specify the funding source for each preschool student, pre-K student enrolled in these programs. So to accurately report PK students now, you will need to know or become best friends with the person who does know which program, in other words, funding source, is being used for each pre-K student enrolled in your programs. And you will also need to know if those programs are being taught by certified teachers or non-certified teachers. So as I said, you probably need to find a new best friend who is actively involved with your pre-K programs and can provide you with that information so that it can be reported accurately. Okay. And all of the new codes must be reported similarly to the 902 code in that they require a provider code, a UPK provider code, such as, day school, preschool.
Nursery school.
Thank you. Thank you.
Don't
Totally
worry,
need to
Pam, there's a printout for that. I'm the best friend of the pre-K. So you could just find that online. It has all the codes.
Thank you, everybody. All right. I've only had part of my coffee so far, so brain obviously is not complete. All right. So that being said, I think that wraps it up for the pre-K codes. No, only one code. I see Sherry's question, would we report more than one code per pre-K student? Not at any particular time, although it may change throughout the year where you would end one and start another. But one of the like we may have students in yeah, I'm going to take that one offline. I know what I want to say, but I can't put it all in words. So, Sherry, I'll get back to you on that. And as we get more details also in guidance from state ed, because they have not specifically answered a lot of these questions. Okay.
Thanks, Pam.
Okay. Okay, so we will include that either with the notes or we will revisit it at the next DDC meeting to add clarification to that. Okay. All right. So it's the return of the FERPL eligibility codes. And I can tell which of you have done this before because I can hear the groans over the virtual connection. But for the sake of those who haven't, let's step back a minute and take a look at what this means. So SED is reactivating the collection of the FERPL eligibility codes. Okay, and for those who are truly newbies to all of this, FERPL refers to the free and reduced lunch program. This is a complex area of reporting. Students who are eligible to receive free or reduced price lunch are reported with a program service record indicating what they are entitled to receive. So an important point, because I think the question would be coming, starting in 25-26, all students in New York State receive free lunch per the governor. But you can only report students who are determined to be eligible based on a specific criteria. So in other words, you're not going to report every student in your district as receiving free lunch. This is eligibility, not what they receive. Okay, so this also applies and has for years to the CEP districts in that you don't report all your students, you only report those that are eligible. Okay, so on to the new stuff. There are 3 eligibility type codes to be reported. Students are determined to be eligible based on household income, students who are directly certified, and students eligible for food distribution on Indian reservations. Their eligibility program record should be updated to include the correct code. If they are not eligible due to one of these 3 specific categories, then no eligibility code should be reported. Okay, so that's just a note on what the not required means here on the slide. It does not imply that you do not need to do this. It simply means that if a student is not eligible for one of these 3 reasons, that a null should be reported. If you know the eligibility type, and typically you will for directly certified students, then you need to report it. Okay, so an example of students who would not have anything reported would be students who are eligible due to carryover or homeless or because they're a foster student. And then in those cases, you would leave that field blank unless, of course, they also qualified under one of the 3 specified categories. All right.
We do have one comment in the chat. I think if you report someone as FERPL based on household income, it allows them to get an EBT debit card over the summer from the state.
Yes, I believe that's true. Yeah, I mean, that wasn't really a question.
Right, comment.
Okay, the part about carryover and homeless, just if a student is only eligible due to carryover or being determined to be homeless, then you would not report an eligibility type. You would still report an eligibility record, just the eligibility type field would be blank. Does that help?
Yes,
Yeah.
thank
Okay.
you.
All right. And
And
thanks,
also
Lori,
just a
for that additional comment as well.
Thank you. And just a time check-in, we're at 9:44.
Okay, okay. So the next one here, this really isn't an update. I'm gonna paraphrase this quickly. We need to take a look at state course codes and assessment codes for regions. And for those following reasons, I'll let you read through that, but let's go to the next slide. Okay, so continue, you saw these last spring. Notice the subtle hint about updating your codes now. Okay, so for Regents ELA, we are transitioning to the new learning standards. And so for June Regents, you will use the new code on row 2. Okay, for students taking ELA Regents in August, or those who will be taking it in January, you will use the January and August codes specified on row 1, along with course codes that end with CC. The new state course code no longer has the CC on it. Okay. Geometry has completed the transition. So those are the new codes those are the codes that should be being used across the board this year. And Algebra 2, which is transitioning this year. Again, similar to the ELA at the top, those taking the Algebra 2 exam in June should use the new code as specified in the bottom row. And those who have taken the August Regents or will take the January Regents in Algebra 2 would use the code specified in the second to last row and would have a state course code that ends in CC. Okay, and let's move on to our science, the next, because there's that subtle reminder again to update those codes now. So we are transitioning. In science, we have 2 active learning standards that can be being taught. So students should always be enrolled in a course that has the state course code aligned with the curriculum being taught. for earth science, biology, chemistry, and physics, either one is currently active. Okay, and so you'll see the new codes that are added this year in bold. And so you need to not simply really, identify which curriculum is being taught for which student and enroll the students in the courses that have the appropriate course code. The one thing I do want to point out here is that last year for the lab codes, if they are used, they had said use the same lab code for either curriculum. This year, they have introduced new lab codes that align with the curriculum as well. So you want to make sure if you're using those lab codes, if you have separate lab courses, that you want to update them to the appropriate lab codes. Okay, and finally, next slide goes, just because in case you didn't have enough changes to make, they have actually streamlined this a little bit in the area of social studies. So US history and government, they've gotten rid of the F and the NF, the framework and the new framework codes, and they have consolidated all of that into a cleaner set of codes to be used for social studies. And you need to update those prior to your first import of courses into level 0 in all of in most of these cases, because you will get error messages if you are still using N or NF on those codes. All right. All right. Level 0 changes that you'll see. There's really not a whole lot, but they've cleaned up the assessment screen, and anything in the red square is no longer there because they weren't being used. And the alpha and the numeric scores that appear in the green box here were moved up, and those two are the only two that are being kept. Okay. In level 0, we now have the additional function that you can search by NISIS ID, in addition to local ID or last name. So that, I think that's pretty, straightforward change. And I want to get to the next one first. Okay. Until now, there has been no way to prevent users from logging in when something is amiss. And we are working to refresh level 0 when something is amiss, and we are working to reboot level 0. When level 0 is not functioning properly, if imports were done during that period, any data worked on at that time may have to be re-imported or updated again when the system is restored. In order to avoid that problem, we now have the ability to prevent logins temporarily by turning on maintenance mode. If you see this login message, know that we are aware of a problem and we are working to correct it. Okay. You will also continue to receive notification emails when level 0 goes down and when level 0 comes back up. So just a note, if the login screen is cached locally on your computer, you may not see this message right away. Since we don't have the new version yet, I can't actually tell you how that's going to flush out. But to prevent having a login screen that's not currently the correct login screen, you may want to clear your cache and refresh your screen to always see the most current screen. And thanks to John and testing, I now know that you can clear cache by using Control F5 to clear the cache for the site you are on only, which is really a quick and easy solution to that. So you may want to just get into a habit of doing that when you get to a login screen. Thanks, John. All right, so you may see that roll out, hopefully not too frequently, with level 0 changes. And this is just a note on some changes to the edit checks that are going to be coming out with the new release. So the first item is, I think you may be happy about. So previously on program code 0220, the dates had to align specifically with the ungraded enrollment record. And I think that caused some angst and workarounds that were implemented. So now the 0 to 20 program record must be reported within the enrollment period. Okay, so at some point in time. So if your dates don't specifically align, you'll no longer be getting an error message on that. Okay. On student restraint events, which was the new one from last year, just a note that descriptions exceeding 250 characters will be truncated when migrated from level 0. Some folks got a little verbose in what was typed into that category. And on the student daily attendance changes that we've talked about a moment ago, if the day type code is equal to remote, the modality must be equal to remote, or in rare cases, some folks use both. And if it's not, you will receive an error. So those attendance changes must actually be done. Okay. And they've done some edit checks on credits. So to ensure that credits are being reported accurately. So if you have an AP course with an outcome equal to pass, the credits attempted must be greater than 0. And similarly, in the reverse direction, if an outcome is equal to fail or not complete, the credits earned cannot be greater than 0. And of course, they've added a lot of parsing rules for the new fields and the new templates. Okay. I'm going to pass it over to Michelle now for a quick update on staff eval.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you, Pam, and good morning, everybody. So yes, it's time to talk about staff evaluation, which is one of the 2 domains still open for the 24-25 school year, with SC events, as we heard earlier, being the other one. So with staff evaluation, just to go over a couple of things, since this is part of the 24-25 data collection process, it is being collected in the 24-25 level 0 database. So once level 0 opens for the 25-26 school year, you will need to switch the school year within level 0 in that application at the top to import and migrate 24-25 staff eval data. A few notes and reminders about this collection. As we discussed in a few of our monthly meetings during the last school year, Governor Hochul signed legislation on June 28th, 2024, which amended Education Law 3012D and established Education Law 3012E. LEAs have until the 2031-32 school year to adopt a 3012E plan. And all LEAs in our region still reported under 3012D for 24-25. So NYSED's educator eval team closely monitors the progress of staff eval submissions and reports that information to us. So we can see that a number of districts in our region have already submitted 24-25 staff evaluation records, so kudos to you. Also note that the educator eval team at NYSED performs their own outreach as the due dates get closer, and may reach out to the DDC and or the superintendent. So be on the lookout for that. And so when we talk about due dates, we're talking about for the submission that's due October 24th, which means for us migrated from level 0 by noon on October 22nd. And there is a certification with this collection, and that certification is due no later than October 31st. And that certification must be submitted through SEDMON from NYSED's business portal. There is a link on the screen, which of course all of the links you will get when the SS are distributed to you. And you can click on that and see an infographic with all of the related due dates for staff evaluation. If you would like assistance navigating additional assistance through this, we have you covered with some self-paced microlearning tutorials and individualized training. So if we look at the next slide, we'll start with the microlearning modules. These links are in the resource library and they've been provided previously, but I also have the links here, and you can see the topics next to each of those modules. Module 1 is all about the due dates. Module 2 is about understanding APPR plans and summaries. Module 3 is about doing that reporting of staff evaluation and in making those imports to level 0 and migrating, etc. And module 4 is if you need to build your own staff evaluation import file, we have that information there for you, as well as a template and instructions on how to do so. If you've already, viewed the tutorials, we hope they've been helpful, and you can always email datawarehouse@mhric.org with any questions or feedback. So about the virtual one-on-one training, so if you would like some help in submitting your staff evaluation data, we are also offering these workshops. These 45-minute virtual sessions will be available on a first come, first served basis. You can simply click the link under the data team member's name to see the dates and time slots available and book what works best for you. So some things to know. These sessions are designed to walk you through importing your data to level 0, checking for and correcting any import errors, and migrating your data. We cannot do any calculations to arrive at the scores and ratings, as these are district specific and dependent on your district's APPR plan. Please come to the session with your level 0 credentials and make sure that you have that update rights to the staff evaluation domain. And the trainer will reach out to you prior to your session with your Zoom link and to ensure that your staff eval data is in the proper format for import to level 0. Okay. All right, so looking ahead, here is a list of the 25-26 DDC meeting dates with registration links for each. Next month's meeting is scheduled for October 14th. Please feel free to register for all meetings as soon as it's convenient for you. We will include this slide in the DDC presentation every month. As the year progresses, you will see the registration links get grayed out and the recording links added. Speaking of recording links, you will receive the recording link for today's meeting and any other assets, including the slide deck, within a few days following the meeting. Okay. All right. So here on this screen, is our contacts. State reporting involves working with many sources of information and many applications, as you know. So this slide shows the contact information for many of the MHRIC departments with which you need to communicate. So, data warehouse, student services, special services, testing, food services, financial services. As a rule of thumb, it is best to send your initial request to one contact or department. We can coordinate it with other departments if needed. Kindly include all pertinent details so that we may properly research your request. So student ID, report number, or report name, error message, etc. Of course, if you're sending any PII, be sure to encrypt the email. And, PII can sometimes hide in screenshots, so double check those prior to hitting send. All right, so on this screen, are links and resources. Knowing and using your resources is critical to staying on track in the world of New York State data collection and reporting. These links are the tip of the iceberg, but are a great starting point. So, of course, the link to our website and our data resource library, links to level 1 and level 2, our YouTube channel where we post our videos, our recordings, and other tutorials. NICET acronyms is a good one because, especially if you're new to this, it's a whole different language. So if you're interested in knowing and having a good list of the acronyms that are used, that's a good link. And the SIRS manual. Quick item note about the SIRS manual link. NICET has been updating their website, and the link to the SIRS manual has changed. So make sure that you have this new update and you save and bookmark that. So with that, I'll hand it back to Sam.
Thank you, Michelle. And everybody, I know it is 10 o'clock. Our apologies. We're going to be wrapping up here very shortly. So if you can stay on with us, we will also be sharing the recording at a later time. Okay, so moving on, we have our level 0 account, our annual account audit. It's coming up in the month of September. So this will include deleting, adding, editing any level 0 or ASAP accounts. So just keep a lookout for outreach level 0 audit emails. And just remember, it's a good time, a good practice to audit accounts in other systems as well, like CEDOS, anybody that has access to student or staff data. So, so that will be coming soon. All right, and our task list, I spoke to this earlier a little bit. This is the shared link. September is available. It does include those 25, 26 new items that came up throughout this meeting. Even new DDCs and seasoned DDCs, definitely check it out. And this is where you can find that SIRS tip of the month that I mentioned earlier with the 8,300 enrollments and those Ls. And it'll help you stay on track with your data cleansing throughout the year. And it is specific for the month that is referenced. So it's not a culmination of everything through the year. So it's not too overwhelming. So we'll share that link at a later time after the meeting. And then for September as well, we have our level 1 report guides that we've been working on. We have 9 new ones. They're going to be available. They are available, excuse me, at these 2 links, and you can use those pass keys to access them. If you haven't bookmarked this already, these are very helpful, and we try to come out with new ones every month. So look for new ones next month as well. So I'm going to I'd like to introduce our Mid-Hudson RIC director, Catherine Hamill. And Catherine, are you there?
I'm here.
Hi, good morning.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for inviting me. It's always informative when I jump on these meetings, and I love to see between the chat and all of the questions that people are answering. I love to see the interaction and really exactly that it's sort of a multi-pronged approach when it comes here to the support from the RIC. And by all means, in addition to the people on the data teams, by all means, if you have questions, we've got representatives from most of our RIC teams here on this meeting, and just want to reiterate, we are always here to help. So with that being said, my name is Kate. I am, as Sam said, the director of the Mid-Hudson RIC, which actually it's been, I believe, 8 months already I've been in this role. So slowly but surely coming along and learning new things. For those of you who may or may not have seen me or known who I am, this is my contact info. Again, feel free to reach out with any questions or thoughts. Lots of things happening here at the RIC, which does include some transitions in leadership here at the RIC. So previously, the data services, testing services, some of our special services, training services were overseen by Mariah Aiden, who was the manager here at the Mid-Hudson RIC. Mariah has moved on to a different opportunity for her in her career. So we wish her the best of luck. In the interim, I am, in addition to kind of overseeing the RIC, but I also am kind of taking over supervisory role over these teams while we are looking and working on, which will be hopefully coming soon, a job posting where we will be looking for a new manager to oversee these services. So keep that in mind, and keep your eyes open for that. But in the interim, I'm working very closely with the teams, and know that we are available for your support. So I will be following up with this information in writing, so look for that as well. But I just wanted to, say hello and have an opportunity to talk to you about that on this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we're going to move on. Due to the interest of time, I know we're over time today. Please put any questions you have in the chat, and we will absolutely follow up with anybody. We'll review any questions that have been put in already if they haven't been answered. So you will get an answer for those. So, BOCES DDCs, please stay on this call for our inaugural BOCES conversation meeting. We'll be going over that with you all very shortly. But for everybody else, thank you for staying over time. We really appreciate it. Our next meeting is October 14th at 9 a.m. If you haven't signed up already, please do so.